Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show. I got two brothers I have known for 112 years, and we're only 13 years old.
Hey, 100 of us with Gary.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are two members of the group Forecast, Lem and Gary Stevenson. The cool thing about these two guys, it's about longevity. Soon, somewhere in the next month or whatever, they're going to celebrate 40 years of being together. Gary's a bass player. Lem is the xylophone vibes. I still don't know what to call it. Vibes. I'm getting reprimanded. Is the vibe player. Like I said, it'll be 40 years. They've been around a long time. I've known them a long time. They've done a lot of music. The first thing, guys, I want to ask is, what do you think is the key to your longevity? Doesn't matter. Either one of you can go.
I'm going to let Gary go first. He's
Okay.
the oldest.
No, I'm not. Neither have I been in the band as long as you. I'm not as old as you. But patience, understanding.
The love and the desire to want to play. It just makes you say, no matter what the situation is, I'm going to adapt and I'm going to keep playing.
Being able to take one on the chin.
More than one.
When you say take one on the chin, is that from each other? Or is that just from the fact that?
Oh, we love each other. We pick with each other more than anybody in the band. Me and Gary understand because we're old school. It's the new generation that we have to deal with, and they don't understand how insulting they are. And we just got to deal with it and keep going because we want to keep playing. And guys in our age group probably just can't take it. You know, they're like, man, I ain't dealing with this no more, you know, for whatever the reasons may be. But I believe in trying to find personalities that say, you know, let's go forward. And it's hard to do, especially dealing with the younger generation today, because their expectations coming into the band is, all right, man, get me paid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we're like, okay, let's make this music right. Yeah, that's okay, but get me paid.
Right. When we talk about your longevity and the fact that you two have been together for so long, when I think of the music, there's so much that has changed, has grown. You've grown. Your library of music has grown. What is that process like? Are you glued to? This is not really the greatest thing to say. Are you glued to radio to hear what's being played? Are you just listening? Do you know? How do you pick a song to add to your repertoire?
Well, we got a little bit of a system where, first of all, Kevin Bias is our musical director.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up with this idea to pick, you know, this week we pick a song from the keyboard player. The next week we pick a song from the guitar player. The next week we pick a song from the sax player. And he rotates that. So at each time we have these rehearsals, we're learning a different, you know, tune that's pretty much featuring that instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And it rotates around and it kind of balances out, you know, it's a happy medium. But me, I'm not gonna say I'm stuck on the old school way. I listened to an interview just recently with Kirk Whalum,
Mm-hmm.
and he said that we get stuck on what we think the music should be,
Right.
as opposed to how we really feel. So that boils down to like originals. Like my originals, they're all different,
Mm-hmm.
but they all, it's what I feel at the time, at the moment. And I like to try to push those, which I plan on doing in 2025.
Yeah. Now, Gary, you're the bass player. I've always had the attitude that bass players were and probably drummers are I don't want to say the focal point, but it's the constant backbone of the group. So no matter what the song is, it ain't like you getting a break. You got to keep playing. You got to know every one. I would think every bass line is different for every song, but you still want to implement your own, let's say your own secret sauce. How are you doing that over 40 years?
Well, as a bass player, I think and drummers, I can speak for those two members of the rhythm section. You have to look at the position that we play, as far as having building a foundation so that the rest will have something to work on. You have to be stable. You have to be disciplined. At the same time, you want to interject your own signature. You want to season it your way, and keep in mind that you're not playing just for yourself. You have a listening audience you're playing for. So all those things have to be taken into consideration. But I look at the bass and the drums as being the infrastructure of the band.
Dude, 40 years is a long time. 40 years is a long time for anything. My one question is, do you, and this is for each of you, and Lem, I know you do. I've seen your videos of you doing that ridiculous turning thing where you're hanging from the poles or whatever. I ain't doing that. But you got to be in shape because it's not a 10-minute set. And no disrespect, Lem, the bass and the drummer are playing the entire time. Are you constantly working out or working out your fingers? I saw Bob James in concert one time, so I'm backstage, and he had a masseuse come in and massage his hands. If you got massage tips or exercise tips, Broadman from the fifth floor would like to hear them, so I can get in better shape. So what you got for me, Gary?
Well, I'm going through a thing right now where I don't talk about it a lot, but got arthritis in both hands, carpal tunnel.
Mm.
Having some things over 40 years, it's a lot of things. But the thing that has got me to this point to where I've been able to, face the longevity and do the long haul is, the time on the instrument is really the conditioning for the job. The more I play, the more I condition myself. But over the years, there's been a breakdown, of cartilage and
Mm-hmm.
and I try to eat healthy, eat right, and I'm not a big exercise person, but I don't just lay around all day.
Right.
Exercise has got a part of it, but just playing the bass, you stay in condition. The more you play, the more conditioned you are for the job, and it's been a crazy ride.
40 years of there don't take this wrong with Gary. There are times when I've seen you guys in concerts where you're the only one I'm looking at because I'm just wondering how much longer the fingers can go. I have knee problems, and I just wonder how much longer these knees can take it. Lem, on the other hand, there's you. You get a break every now and then. I don't mean this badly, but it's like the vibes are kind of an easy instrument to play, but you just got to play. Okay, go ahead.
They're
Cut
a
me up.
hard instrument to carry. So
Okay.
I got to keep working on this so I can carry that. I mean, over the years of breaking it down and putting it in a big travel case, and 2017, I purchased this little van, this little small Ford Transit Connect van,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't break the vibes down anymore. You know, sometimes, like they say, you get older, you get smarter.
Right.
Now I can take the vibes and just roll them to the van, which sits low. Pick one end up, put it on the back of the van, go back to the back end, pick it up and roll it up in there, put some bungee cords on it so that it doesn't roll around, and then load up the rest of my equipment. So that's easier for me now. Now, when people call us for gigs, this may sound crazy, but I will ask them, are there any steps involved, or do you have an elevator?
Right.
I asked up front, because if it does, if it's a thing, well, the stage is on the second floor. I said, do you have an elevator to get up? Well, no. I said, then we can't do the gig. And I know if the guys heard me talking to somebody on the phone about trying to book this gig, and I'm turning it down because we got some stairs, they would probably, well, Gary would understand, but the younger guys would be like, man, I'll help you carry the vibes. Take that gig. No, I don't even want to deal with it. Because first of all, I'm there first.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always there first. And they come in, if the gig is an 8 o'clock gig, they're there at 7:30, 7:45, and they can walk in and plug up and play. If it's an 8 o'clock gig, I'm there 5 o'clock.
Really?
Darrell,
I got the vibes, it's the sound system too.
I got the PA system with me, and I got my vibes and my amp. I got to get all that stuff in. You can ask these guys over and over again, meet me there at 5. And they're like, man, the gig ain't until 8. Why am I there at 5? I'm going to tell you why I'm there at 5, because they're not going to meet me there to carry all that stuff.
Right.
Every now and then we'll do a gig where it's a production gig where they have a sound company. Then I can come in there just like everybody else.
Right.
With just my vibes and my amp. And that I can set up in 15 minutes. It's easy then. But when it's a date where we are on our own with our own sound, yeah, I got to get through it. I got to stay in shape to carry that stuff. The speakers are not light. The vibes are not light. My amp is not light. The time it takes to take all those cords and plug them up, sound check, and make sure everything's right. And the guys walk in, they plug in, and everything is perfect. They don't see that other side. Well, they know that other side, and then you could say that's why I get paid the big bucks, but that's not true either. Because
Gary's getting the big bucks.
Gary gets all. He takes all of them.
So Gary's shaking his head. How did you two get together? How did this meeting happen?
Well, we were looking for a bass player. Who do we have on bass? We had Sekou on bass.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had Sekou Bunch on bass. And then Sekou was just in town, because he's got family here. He's got kids here.
Right.
So he was here for a few years. And he played with Forecast as the bass player. And we were booking regular. And then all of a sudden, he let me know way in advance. He said, Lem, I'm about to make this move back out to California. Because he's from New York.
Right, yes.
He said, I'm about to make this move out to California, man. I got work lined up, and I need to get a replacement. And I'm like, oh, man. I mean, who could follow Sekou Bunch?
Right.
But then he even explained to me, it's not about, a bass player coming in and having my style. It's about a bass player that can be, that you can count on. They can learn the music. And he said, it's about the whole unit. It's all about the whole band and what they're going to sound like. And he worked with Gary a little bit to break them in. And that helped. And Gary came in after that and been the bass player ever since. Now, of course, you probably had a few people out in the audience saying, well, he ain't no Sekou. Well, hey, I ain't no Roy Ayers, but I'm going to keep playing the vibes.
What you might not even know, Glenn, after 40 years is that Noah tried to get me, the old drummer, not the original drummer, but the drummer that was there when I came in 40 years ago. He tried to get me in the band a couple of different times.
I remember that.
But I was kind of playing with different straight ahead groups.
Right. You were
I kind of didn't want to. I don't know if it was the challenge or I can't really tell. It's been so long. I don't even know why I turned him down a couple of times. But the last time he did, I don't know. It was just fate. I just took the gig and I've been here ever since.
Right. I remember that because Noah kept mentioning your name, and I had saw you with Skip, and I said, man, that'll be perfect. So I don't know. I guess it just took you a minute to break down and come and join in. But we were doing a lot more gigs than the straight ahead stuff that you were doing.
Right.
Yeah, you might have been playing a little bit on the weekends. Back then, man, we was 6 days a week.
And that's the thing I remember when I was at WABQ. It was one of those things when don't they play? It's like, and
I think Mondays was the only time that we took a day off.
I was going to say Mondays, and I always knew Thursday, Friday, Saturday you were playing. You could go somewhere, and we had far more clubs than now. It's a whole nother.
There was more clubs, and we had every Tuesday at Lancers.
Yes.
Every Wednesday was, I think, the Escape or.
All I know is back when we were sponsored by Budweiser.
Oh yeah.
And they had a calendar that we put out on the tables at every club that we played at. I remember one calendar had 40 gigs on it.
What?
Yeah.
And it was only 31 days in that month. I think
we were doubling up sometimes. We'd play an afternoon gig and play a night gig.
We had 2 gigs on. We had a gig, I think, in every block, in every date. And a couple of them had 2 gigs, and one of them, we did 3 gigs in one day.
I'm glad I just knew you, and if I had a job, it would only be announcing the show because I'm tired of listening to you.
But Darrell, that's all for the love of doing it. Back then, that was the love of doing it. You get older, you slow down because the physical aspects take a toll on the body. But back then, man, we was in our 30s. Come on, man, we were rolling. We didn't care. We just wanted to play.
Let's keep it real too. From my experience, and for what I remember, in those days right there, where we were like at that time, man, we couldn't stand each other. Truly.
All right, hold that thought. I want to play a track from you guys. This is actually one of Lem's tunes, I believe. It's called Harriet's Train on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. That's Harriet Strain from the band Forecast on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Gary, you just mentioned, and we were going into the break, when you were playing all those gigs, you said it wasn't the smoothest sailing amongst the band. How'd you deal with that? I mean, I know a lot of the members, but like I said, you two have been my most consistent. Was it creative differences? Was it personalities? What was the difficulties?
Sometimes it was chemistry. Sometimes it was, at that point, it wasn't age. It wasn't so much of an age factor because we were all around the same age. But I look at it, I've always looked at it like a marriage. You know, you're married to somebody for a long time and, you know, you love each other. But man, sometimes you just get, hey.
I need my space.
I need my space. Right. And when you don't have any space,
right,
that's when that's when you notice how much your space you really need.
And so, Gary, are you classically trained, or who were the bass players that you were following when you were growing up?
Well, my father, he played upright, and he just a brief history. He was getting demands to play bass guitar, so he brought one home, and he used to practice on it a while, and he'd keep it up under the bed. And I used to cut school and come home and go up under the bed and get the bass and start fiddling around on it, trying to pick up songs And after about a month, I was playing songs and everything. So he had it out one day. He was practicing, and he left it sitting out. And I picked it up and started playing. I used to listen to a lot of rock and roll. Either a song by, it might have been Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I played a couple songs, and he came in and looked at me. He was like, "When did you learn that?" I was like, "I've been going up under the bed getting the bass." You know, that's when he found out I was cutting school. He said, "Oh, all right." He grabbed the bass. He said, "Well, I'm gonna put it up now, and you're not gonna find it. And you bring your grades up and cut out your shenanigans, and you can play the bass." And that's when I brought my grades up. I was the 10th grade, John F. Kennedy. That's when I brought my grades up, and it was history after that. I was in a band. After a couple months, I was in a band, but it came relatively easy. So he was my first bit of inspiration, and he gave me some insight on how to do things. But I was young and rebellious. I wanted to do my own thing. I liked Stanley Clarke, but I never tried to imitate him. I loved Verdine White.
Mm-hmm.
I did try to imitate a lot of his grooves and his little signature things. Then as I got older and started meeting cats personally, I moved to New York for a little while, met some bass players there. When I met Sekou, he was a very big inspiration, and it still is to today. I get a lot of information from him. Other than that, no major proteges. I just like the bass and the function of the instrument. So.
Mm-hmm. And I see from Lem's video, he's been joined by the master of the household.
Master of the house.
Shaka. He's up there on your leg. Wow. My master of the house, as I call him, my four-legged fan of the show, Rhodey, is down here laying down like, I just want to be in the room. Its animals are absolutely amazing. What do you think is the major factor behind the group's longevity? I mean, you have a great history, you have thousands of fans, but I mean, y'all been together a long time. There are people that have not been together for 40 years. I mean, we can have friendships that can last forever, but at least with friendships, you can go your way, the other friend can go the other way. But you all are together, what, 3-4 nights a week for 4 or 5 hours, trying to mesh a sound that everybody sitting out in the seats can appreciate. Let me, you go first.
I would just say, like I said, I'm gonna always fall back on you. You can't do it unless you love it. And there's guys, like I said, they may have issues with dealing with it, but that's with life.
Mm-hmm.
This band has been through a lot over the years. It's been through a lot of changes over the years. I can't even remember the number of musicians that have been through the band.
Mm-hmm.
Number of sax players, a number of bass players, a number of drummers, a number of keyboard players, probably more keyboard players than anything. The number of guitar players. I can count the guitar players. I can count the sax players. Matter of fact, the band was started with a sax player, and that was Bob Fry, who is back in Cleveland. He was gone from the band for about I think he was in New York for about 22 years. But he's back in town. He lives right up the street from me, as a matter of fact. I see him sometimes. But I'm in there because I've always wanted to play the vibes. And I was pushed into a position of booking the band. I didn't like that. I just wanted to play the vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Like being on the side. I wanted to be considered a side man. I didn't want all the responsibility of dealing with all the different personalities on a professional level. The longevity with me is just basically, it's what I like to do. I mean, there's two things I've always said I wanted to do when I retire from the jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Be to work out and play the vibes. And that's all I ever wanted to do. Now, the three things that I love to do: work out, play the vibes, and walk my dog. So that's just me. I mean, other people, like I said, they do it for the money. I found other sources, as far as making a living and being able to pay my bills. I mean, sure, the money is good, playing with the band, but I just like to play. I can't wait. I can't wait to get to a gig.
And Shaka is not a dog. Shaka
No, he's
is
family.
a small human being with
He
4
is
legs.
family. He is family.
Gary, what contributes to your longevity in the band?
Give me 1 minute. I'll be right there, guys.
The love of the instrument, the love of the music, my personality. I'm the kind of person that when something works, I just stick with it. That probably has a lot to do with the reason why I've never left Cleveland for a long period of time. I think it's got a lot to do with my personality and just kind of just hanging in there, with relationships and endeavors.
It's funny. In all the years that I've known you, Gary, there's a consistency with calm. And if I didn't know you were a bass player, that would be the thing that would trigger me that you are a bass player. Because whether it's Stanley, Marcus, Victor Wooten, a whole bunch of folks that are bass players, there's a coolness about them because it's like that instrument, that hook that you play, that solo that you do, it's right on time. It's right on point. It's just cool. I always thought bass players were the coolest members of the band. Um, like I said, there are times when I've come to your shows and I'm watching you to see how you move, to see what you look like, to see what you're doing. And it's just nice, man. It really is. But let me ask this. In the 40 years that you all have been playing together, Gary, what's your favorite song? If you got more than one, I don't care. But what is the favorite song you love to play?
That's real hard to say. I got hundreds of songs that I love immensely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to put one over the other because each song has something that draws you in. That it's a frequency
Mm-hmm.
that takes you to a place, and it's like I would have to think long and hard before I would make an honest assumption of one over another.
That would be interesting because I think one night we should have the Gary Stevenson concert and play all your favorite songs.
All my favorites.
All your favorite songs.
Yeah, different songs do different things. So,
right.
Snarky Puppy has a song called I'm having a senior moment. Sing It to the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's something about that song that every time I hear it gives me goosebumps. But there's probably 500 other songs that do the same.
All right, Lem, before we get to you, we're going to play Sweet Dreams from the band Forecast on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Welcome back to the Jazz Flyte Podcast, Sweet Dreams. Two guys that I've known a long time, and that's what we'll do because we're all old.
I am never going to admit it.
I know how old you are, Lem,
but I'm never going to admit it.
At some point you have to. And ladies and gentlemen, if you follow Lem on Facebook, he goes and works out and he does these things. I don't know who else does that. I really don't. The
I
one,
saw other people doing it, and I said, let me try it.
well, you're a far better man than me because I don't know if I can pull my legs up and swing around that much while I'm doing that thing for my abs. What's what's next for you guys? What it's 40 years and you're 50 when we're talking again. Boy, it'd be rough. Uh, what are you going to be doing? Here's my thing. And uh, Gary, I don't know if you know this. Lem, you know this is my biggest pet peeve. I want an album. I want something that I can go over and put in my tray, download, stream, or whatever of your new music. And that's I think that's what a lot of people want. It is great to see you guys in person. It is great to see live performances. But every now and then, if I'm thinking of forecast, and I meant to find the album, and you'll know what I'm talking about, the FM 108 Sound of the Streets
Oh,
album. And what was the song? Right Before Your Eyes?
right before your eyes, written by Carmen Barth.
God, the bad thing is that I remember that song. But that's what I want. I want to have something in my hand that I can play. When I do and you haven't seen this room, it's 90% music. It's jazz CDs on this side, R&B and pop on that side. And for those of you that don't know and haven't seen them, there's a bunch of Peaches crates in front of me. Um, but there are times when I think of a song and I'll go play Right Before Your Eyes before the day is over. Um, so we'll do that. But I want more. I'm not a big fan of the streaming thing. I'm just not. So
Well, to be honest with you, and I heard this, actually, I heard Master P the other day. He did an interview talking about the music industry.
mhm,
And it was pretty deep, coming from a rapper. But he was saying he's no longer in the music industry because and even Snoop Dogg said that he took it off of Snoop Dogg's interview. Snoop Dogg was talking about, he says, man, I got songs where 1 million copies were downloaded.
mhm,
He says, so if there were 1 million people downloaded, I should have at least 500,000 that they sold for $1 a piece.
right.
But he don't see it.
No, not at all.
Okay, so that's where it's come down to. CDs slowed down. A lot of people don't even have CD players anymore. So streaming is the way to get your music out to people. The streaming companies are just as harsh as the. You remember the producers that used to put the money up for you? You
Yes.
give you money to go into the
Mhm.
studio.
Yes.
And all these guys would come out of it and it sold 5 million copies and blah, 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 but they don't see it.
Right.
They don't see the money. But somebody did. It depends on which kind of contract you signed. It's a dog eat dog business, man.
Yeah.
So I think for me, for right now, streaming is the best way. Like the couple songs that you just played,
Mhm.
Harry's Train and Sweet Dreams. Those are available on Spotify and YouTube, and
Reverb.
that's about the only way to really get them out there. I mean, if I put them on CDs and try to sell them at the gigs, I mean, how many people are really going to buy? I got to charge you more for a CD than I do for a download.
Right. Yes.
Because CDs are physical. I got to go to a company, have that song pressed onto the CDs. Then I got to come to the gig and tell you,
$10.
Download is 99 cents, but a CD is going to be $5. And so it's a tough thing. It's a tough business.
Gary, I'm about to put you on the spot. Lem, don't take any. I'm not trying to break up the band. When is the Gary Stevenson bass thing coming out? Where I can have your stuff. When's that coming out? I've started something.
Yeah, I hope this podcast can be edited because you're fronting us off, man.
Yeah, really. I was going to say the same thing. Man, that's another hard one to say because I just never looked at myself as a front man. I've never looked at myself as a leader. I get questions all the time. Well, you know so many people. Why have you never had your own group? I've seen what leaders go through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know. You could say a lot of things. You could say it's a weakness. You could say it's nonchalant. I don't know what to call it, but I never wanted to be in that position because I've seen what leaders go through. I've seen what they go through with. It's like like he says, we've had so much different personnel in the band, and I've been with other groups other than Forecast, and it's like, man, the better, without mentioning any names, but it's like the greater the talent, the more luggage that comes with it. You know, the more drama that comes with it, the more craziness. And I never wanted to be. I was just always satisfied with being a side man. But I've been trying to be pushed by people to step out front, do more. You know, I don't know. I just, like I said, that's just kind of my personality. And at some point, I hope I can come out of that. And
I think it's, Gary, you and I have a lot of the same similarities. It is sometimes you know your role and you're comfortable in that role, and you don't need to step outside that lane because that's what makes you happy. And I guess the bottom line with both of you is it's all about being happy in what you're doing. And I think both of you are, and you have been for 40 years. Hopefully you understood what I said.
Now that you put it like that, Darrell, if you're not happy, you're probably going to quit.
Right. Yes.
Okay. So, and a lot of people will have more expectation of you than you have of yourself. They'll say, why aren't you here? Like you ask us that all the time. Why don't you guys have all kinds of albums? Why don't you guys this? Why don't you guys that? I remember years ago when Carmen Barth was in the band, we were approached by a guy. I'm not going to even mention his name. He's passed now, but he was in the music business. And I remember he gave us this contract to sign. The contract, part of the contract, and as I read over it, and I was telling Carmen, I says, look at this part right here. He says he gets to own the name Forecast.
Yes, right.
If we sign this. And Carmen says, yeah, it's pretty steep.
Right.
We got to get that part changed before we sign this contract. And we got to do this on terms, like a 1 year or maybe a 2 year contract. And if we're not, we get to go somewhere else and find other producers to deal with.
Right.
And the guy was saying, no. And that same guy did it to another band and ended up owning the name. Mm-hmm. So when they left him, no matter what, he still got a cut.
Yep, he got a cut.
So it's like I said, it's a cutthroat business, and you got to watch every little thing. And some of these artists are so anxious to get out here.
Yes.
Sign the first contract. Hey, I'm signed.
Right.
Yeah, you are signed. What did you sign?
Yeah. What are you giving up?
Yeah, I mean, and then a couple of years down the road, man, where's the money, man? I said, hey, you signed it.
Right.
It said you're going to perform for so many tunes, so many dates, so many what, but the money goes to that person, and you gotta watch that. And I've seen it over the years, and like I said, this streaming thing for right now might be the way to go, because at least I know you don't get 100% of your money, but at least you know up front that they're going to be getting X amount of dollars. You didn't sign anything; you just signed up for them to be the distributor of your music. Sure, they're going to say, well, look, we got all the connections to get it played all over the world. You're going to get 99 cents a song. I mean, that song Sweet Dreams, it's on Spotify, and I just checked my my Spotify link the other day to see how much of it, I was making. It's making a little bit. Mm-hmm. Not enough to live on. But, I mean, it's just a good feeling to see that at least some people out here are buying the song.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
But, it's a cutthroat business, man. And people will say to you, they'll come to us all the time, why aren't you guys here? Why aren't you guys doing this? Why aren't you guys doing that? Well, I admire this one guy that he lived to be 99 years old. He played right up to his dying day. And that was UB Blake. Hubie Blake.
Yep.
Because he loved it.
Right.
You know, don't talk down on him because he loved it and played up until he was 99. I don't know if Hubie Blake made a ton of money. I'm quite sure he made a living.
Right, but he was happy.
He was 99 years old and still playing.
Guys, let me say this. Like I said, I've known you guys a long time. I will do whatever I can for both of you, for the band. Yeah, I guess it's one of those things we always want more from you.
Yeah.
But what you give me is fine. More people need to go out and see you. Whatever we can do, whatever Jazz Flyte can do, whether it's your calendar.
Speaking on that, we got some dates, and people can go to musicbyforecast.com. That's the website, musicbyforecast.com, all one word. And you can find out what the schedule is going to be. You'll see 1 or 2 dates on there sometimes. Sometimes you'll see 5, 6 dates as they come in. And we get the contract signed, then I post them. But we do have a big one coming up this summer. We got a couple of big ones, several big ones coming up this summer. But one of them is Chalet Debonair Vineyards. That's going to be Sunday, June 22nd. And we played that for a stretch of, I don't know, Gary, what, 10 years maybe?
No, it was longer than that, maybe.
Longer than 10 years?
Yeah.
Every year, 3 times a year, June, July, and August, one Sunday each month. And it was always fun. It was packed. Matter of fact, I think the last time we played that was just before COVID.
Right before COVID, the summer before COVID.
Right. And we haven't played it since then, so they're going to give it another try. But he estimated there was about 2,600 people out there at his park on that particular day. And he was even complaining that he didn't have enough staff to keep up with the number of people that were showing up out there. So if any of the fans are listening to this, June 22nd, Sunday, June 22nd, we're going to be returning back to Chalet Debonair Vineyards. We ask that you cooperate with their rules. And their rules are don't bring your barbecue grill. Don't bring your own beer and wine because he's got to check all of that at the door. It was abused a little bit. People were getting too comfortable with it. They were bringing their own almost everything.
Yes, I was there.
So he says he's going to be ready for it that particular day. He's only doing it one time this summer. And he's just going to test the waters with that and see how he can handle it. There is a cover charge this time. There never was a cover charge.
Right.
He said to pay $5 for parking. This time he's charging a cover charge he got a new manager who came up with this idea. It's $20 in advance to buy a ticket to come out to see the band, or $30 at the gate. And there's a phone number on on all of the advertisement, on their flyers and on our flyers. You can call that. That's the Debonair Vineyards phone number. You can call that number to get tickets. But we appreciate all the support, but we also would appreciate if the fans would abide by their rules and come out here and just say, look, this is the way it's gonna be. I'm bringing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
Leave your boxing gloves at home.
I know. Leave your boxing gloves.
Gary, I witnessed, and they didn't have boxing gloves.
I know.
I know what you mean. Guys,
you know what, Darrell? We draw, for the type of music that we play, we draw a very, very conservative, very laid back, artsy kind of a crowd. They just want to come out and have a good time. So that one little incident that happened, that was one time in all the years that we've been there.
I'll tell you a story in a minute. So, guys, appreciate it. We'll do this again. Keep the music coming. Keep playing. And just let us know. And we'll put the Debonair Vineyard on we got a calendar coming out. We'll put it on there. And it's just great to talk to you. And Gary, what year did you graduate from John F. Kennedy?
72.
That was 73.
72. 1972.
That's Lynn Tolliver's class. That's my sister's class. Okay. We got to go because we could talk forever. There's a whole bunch of more stuff we can talk about. And at some point, the dogs need to meet. But
you let me know, man. I got a big backyard.
Okay. I will do that. I will do that. But once again, great to talk to both of you guys. It's been great. If it's 40 more years, we're really old. But I hope for 40 more years.
I plan on it.
Dude,
you just better be around for the interview.
Let me know your secret sauce, because We'll got a lot to talk about. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. We'll talk to you again next week. Thanks.
Yeah, we love you, bro.
Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I hope you enjoy these stories and soulful melodies that grew through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Darrell Scott.